The following is a presentation of the Black Hollywood Live Network, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. Hollywood redefined. From Los Angeles, California, streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is Black Hollywood Live, Breaking Into, featuring in-depth interviews with today's most influential entertainment figures, highlighting their tips, tricks, and techniques on breaking into the entertainment industry.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host of Black Hollywood Live, Breaking Into.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Breaking Into here on Black Hollywood Live. I'm your host, James Lott Jr. I'm a certified life coach. And one of the main things about this show that I really believe in is sharing knowledge, lifting each other up, and paying it forward. And with this show, we're going to do that. And my guest today, I am so happy to have him here with me. He is a producer, executive producer, writer, author, documentarian, great guy. It's Leigh Savidge.
Thanks, James. Nice to see you.
Same here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Now, your latest success right now, of course, is the Straight Outta Compton movie, which is based on your story.
Right.
Yes.
I was, the four writers.
Yes.
Four writers on the movie, and I was the guy that birthed the project. So I'm the original guy, and then I brought in a guy named Alan Winkus who did research and co-wrote, the first 21 drafts of it, and then we secured the rights from Tamika Wright, her music rights. She put her rights with the script, and then it went into New Line.
Yes,
and then we had to say goodbye.
Oh, we're going to talk about that because we're going to talk about documentary and documentary filmmaking because folks out there, let me read just a few of his credits. When I was doing research on it, I was like, okay. Straight Out of Death Row. Straight Out of Puerto Rico, Reggaeton's Road to Glory, which I want to see that actually. I haven't seen that one. Eminem, a.k.a. The Legend of Dolomite. I actually saw the Harder They Come restoration vision.
Oh, good.
So that one. And, of course, a couple of Mahalia Jackson documentaries.
The Power and the Glory.
We
also did the first and only doc on Martin Luther King that was authorized by the King Foundation. That was where we started in '92. Wow. So that's done a fair amount of docs.
Yes, you have,
yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. One of the things I want to get right into is, what do you feel is one thing that most, if not every documentary, one element that should be in a documentary?
Well, you need a compelling subject. Okay. It's so, at least if you're, and again, it depends on what your objective is. Are you looking to do something that's going to be in sync with the commercial market? Is that your, sort of be all and end all? Or is it just a subject you're passionate about and that you want to, pursue? I come from the home entertainment business. So, there wasn't I never had a billionaire backer just sort of wanting to finance my dreams, so, there had to be there's this quid pro quo in that, we're going to invest a certain amount of money. We're going to follow and tackle this subject. And then what's our game plan for getting that capital back? So many documentary filmmakers aren't concerned with that.
Okay.
They're concerned with just getting the subject. And really there are two types of documentaries. There's what I call the immersion doc. Okay. And that's where a filmmaker, you see Nick Broomfield and people like that, immerse themselves into a particular environment. Yeah. And, whether it's Aileen Wuornos or, his Biggie Tupac or, any number of things, Heidi Fleiss.
Oh, yes, I saw that one.
Where he goes in, takes his camera, and just sort of lives and immerses in this milieu in and around capturing these people in real time. And then there's what I do is more of the Ken Burns type of, not to say that I'm Ken Burns,
but I can see that. No, I can see
that. You do interviews, you're getting B-roll from, capturing environments and, just getting people to talk and sort of recapturing or capturing a story, which is, a different
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I'm
but
sure.
and then a combination of using, getting third-party footage that is live and
I'm sure,
and combining that. But we're both the basic function is the same: tell a great story.
Yeah.
Use what you can to tell a great story.
And so for you, how do you find your stories? I mean, like, was it like for example, you've done a lot of hip hop stories. Did you like hip hop before, or were the stories just so compelling you went to them?
Well, my sort of way into hip hop was it was sort of business survival, Yeah, because it's I started a company in '86, and
Xenon Pictures, right?
Xenon Pictures, and we were really the first company that decided, identified this, the black content niche, and said nobody's really acquiring third-party titles. Let's start acquiring these titles and doing business with filmmakers, and then establish a label, and then we built a distribution company around that activity.
I've heard that name, yes.
But I mean, you couldn't help but see how the hip hop music movement, beginning with, Public Enemy and Run DMC and n.w.a. and what Ruthless Records was doing into Death Row Records, how that was directly affecting opportunities for black filmmakers, black entertainment, etc. So I mean, you couldn't, if you were in the ethnic space, and I later, added the Latin Hispanic area,
Love it. Yes,
to what we were doing. I mean, it was for the first 10 years, it was literally, every title we acquired was a black audience title, with one exception, which was a live show with Jay Leno, which is
It's like, okay, well, we'll throw him in there too. Sure, why not?
But this is the water cooler story in 1995 was Suge Knight and Death Row Records. So
yes.
I mean, the reason for going after that particular story is everybody was, a lot of people were curious, certainly people in the music industry, but it also, this sort of cult of personality that Suge Knight built was just. And then you have all these artists, the Snoop and Tupac and Dr. Dre and all these people emanating out of this. So the reason to go for it was that just, it almost was, it scared the hell out of people.
I'm sure.
But B, if you could figure out how to get to it, and get people to talk to you about it, you knew you were in a commercial area, in an area that, because, I don't want to do this for my health. I honestly want to do this to try to appeal to an audience, to get an audience to watch what you're doing. And so if that's the reason. That's the reason to go forward. But the hip hop movement, you could not be in the space I was in and sort of ignore it, but moreover, you had to embrace it, and you had to understand to the extent that you could. What was going on.
Well, I'll tell you personally for myself, it was my age group. So, and I saw your documentary for a Death Row documentary, and I loved it actually.
Thank you.
And it's funny because it speaks, because I came from the '80s, going into the '90s.
Right.
I'm from Inglewood. And I'm from Compton. I'm from those areas, and I knew peripherally some of the people in the circles.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people. I mean, you hear they're the iconic names like Dre and Q, but there's just tons of people, and they have a lot of information. In capturing a story like this, you have to talk to a lot of people because even the iconic people, they know what they know, but they didn't see everything.
No.
And they're, often you're talking to one person that saw one thing, and that's their kind of, that's really their calling card. That's their, they're.
Because I went to the concert. I went to the concerts when they were doing World Class Wrecking Crew.
Sure.
And they had the Jerry curls. I went to those concerts that were like $10 to get in.
It was a skinny Dr. Dre.
Yes, exactly.
A skinny Dr. Dre.
I remember seeing them in Nucleus and all these people from back in the day, and I'm like, and so for me to see someone actually documentize it was a great thing for me. It spoke to me and my generation personally. And so seeing Straight Outta Compton, the movie, it was mostly my folks we were around the same age who went together as a group,
Right.
like a boys' night out,
Sure.
and we all got together.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is great, because a lot of filmmakers wouldn't touch it, I guess, because of the subject matter, maybe.
Well,
or
I think it's just part of it is anytime you're dealing with the music industry and music in particular and music licensing,
I guess
and then you've got a
that's
story. Okay, so there's this long-standing antipathy between the music companies and the content companies, and resolving issues there, and a lot of stuff does not get made over issues
That's true,
of
right?
music
Yeah.
and music licensing. But also it was a with regard to this story, there were a lot of ill will and fractured relations among the key people that would have been necessary to sort of tell it. So, in a strange way, it was an opportunity for someone like myself that could go around and try to knit everything together.
What were some of your
the-
techniques I want to stop at that point. That's a really good point. The techniques you use to gain respect, confidentiality. What were some things that you did that actually kind of helped you kind of?
Well, when we did my calling card going into writing the initial drafts of Straight Outta Compton was having done the Welcome to Death Row documentary, because people looked at that and they said, well, he went into business with Michael Harris, a guy who's
Yes.
a former drug kingpin and entertainment impresario and a lot of things, and a guy that apparently scares a lot of people.
I've heard
the relationship I have with him is different than that.
Good.
I mean, in fact we've reconnected here of late.
Oh, how fun! Okay.
As we're working on this, the Death
Death
Row
Row thing,
the
I
Death
know.
Row feature movie. But I think it was also the style. A lot of the things that I had heard, acquiring movies from black filmmakers was, our stories are not being told, we're being misrepresented. I heard this over and over. And we made a decision early on. We said, this story is going to be told in the words of the people that have the courage to speak. And they're going to be the people that were there. They're going to be the Lonzo Williamses and the Matt McDaniels, who's the technical advisor on Straight Outta Compton, and Rudy Pardee, and any number of other people that were there. So I think what helped me, I guess, in pursuing the Straight Outta Compton story is that we'd done a piece that people viewed as authentic.
Okay.
It was a starting point. So if you said, and in fact, Jerry Heller, I tried very hard to get his interview.
Oh, okay.
Very hard to get his interview for Welcome to Death Row, and he shut me down and angrily shut me down.
Wow.
But he saw the film afterwards and decided that he liked it and saw that it was connecting with a lot of the people that he was talking to. So that seeded those conversations. But that was a
tough
one.
He
was an important interview.
Oh, he totally. I'm sure. Oh,
to help break down how the label went and how things worked.
But I'm sure he was nervous about how he was going to be.
No. I mean, it's he was one of a number of people we needed to speak with, and fortunately we got to, people like Madeline Smith, who is not featured in the film. Actually, was featured in a one of the final shooting draft of Straight Outta Compton, but she ran the n.w.a. fan club and was married to Donovan Smith, who owned Audio Achievement Studio, where she was really tethered to. Plus, for years, has handled Tamika Wright's music publishing. People like Madeline, were just absolutely critical. Yeah, because she knows. I mean, when we were trying to get information about Tamika Wright, to put in our draft. I mean, there were very few people that could speak to, and so Madeline helped us there, and eventually we did, Tamika saw our drafts, and I did a lengthy. I did about an 8-hour interview one-on-one with her. Wow. Just top to bottom, and I think she was sort of at a point. This is 2006, 2007. So Eazy had died in 95. She was 11 years out of this, and this was a very, very traumatic thing. Obviously they marry very close to his death, and then she had worked for Clarence Avant at Motown, so she knew I think part of the thinking that Eazy had is that of the women in his life, and there were a few. He felt Tamika was the most capable in terms of, but it also showed you that anyway there was a absence of male figures that she would want to bequeath her record label to. So she finds herself suddenly, that's the relationship with Heller's over, and she inherits this company, and
like, what do you do?
What do you do? And then, of course, all these people coming out of the woodwork saying, "I'm owed this and that," and all this. So it's
she's a fascinating figure.
And again, luck. It must be stressed that it's a miracle that this movie happened. A miracle.
Which is a great point.
I just say it over and over because people think, it was sort of, divine intervention any number of different times to make this thing finally move over, to where.
So from book to movie coming out, how many years do you think total? Do you know?
Well, started in 2001.
Okay.
I was basically out of it by 2008, and that's when Andrea Berloff and Jonathan Herman take over, and that's when Dre and Cube are pulled in and front and center because the studio wants them really front and center on the on the marketing and
but
putting
that's a good thought though. It takes a while for things like this to come together.
Even for something, and it always felt like this is so obvious. This story, and its appeal is so obvious. I mean, you have these millennials, people turning 40. This was sort of the, the defining, rough, tough music of their era. Where for other people it might have been the Stones or Pink Floyd or something. This was this was very defining music.
Well, it's very much like Nirvana and that whole grunge movement.
Sure.
This happened around this was the same time period. That was one. Yeah. This was another. Both important.
I mean, kind of the black version of grunge.
Exactly.
I mean,
I agree with you on that. Totally agree with that.
I mean, the rebelliousness has always been part of rebellious music. Has always been something that has captured the imagination of teenagers, and it's dating back to Elvis Presley. And if you look at look at punk and look at all of this, these sort of iterations of music that build up. So the fact that these guys are going to start rapping about stuff happening in South Central Los Angeles. I mean it.
And it was such an East Coast thing
makes
first.
Sense. It was.
Yeah. It was like, now we got the West Coast doing it, and they were doing it differently.
Well, Run DMC, took that Aerosmith song and that sort of
changed everything, didn't he?
And but it was so this is really where this sort of East Coast West Coast rivalry starts, because it's the West Coast that really blows it up into super stupid money, and
I agree. I totally agree.
That's what it's n.w.a. into Death Row, and then you pick up the thread in '95 when Sean Combs is working for Andre Harrell,
right?
And he's watching Suge Knight step to artists and say, "Hey, I'm managing Jodeci. I'm managing Mary J. Blige now."
Yeah.
And so this is where you want to see where that initial seeding of that East Coast West Coast conflict starts. That's where it.
You're taking me back right now.
I feel
like I'm going back in time.
That's where it starts, and then it just sort of then there's the the stuff that happens with Tupac, and there's Haitian Jack, and the Quad Studios, and the sort of the sort of sense that. Tupac having the sense that he's been set up, and then the other issues, of getting the West Coast records played in New York.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, the clubs and which is where things records are broken in, in the Big Apple. So if you've got, you know, you can't get your records played, there are issues or politics, or you're being ransomed to get your records played, then it's, you know, business was at the heart of that whole conflict.
And for me, I always felt like it's that. I also felt very soap opera. I mean, it's like you could these are easily, you could take it. Well, I guess Empire is showing that now. You could take it and put other genres in its place, and it's still the same kind of thing. There's these kind of paternal figures. They're the ones that are the underlings.
Sure.
They're the outsiders. I mean, so many elements that I felt like the Death Row story, especially, and they're all there. It's soap opera.
Yeah.
It's real life, obviously, and people got hurt and stuff for real. But I always felt like that would draw me to the stories too, because they're compelling.
I was asked on by one interviewer the difference between Lucious, Lyon, and Suge Knight, and it's that their trajectories, to look at them, they're just totally different. Both interesting, but both totally different. I mean, Lucious Lyon was a small-time drug dealer, but a music man, a guy that played instruments and was in the studio, recorded music, knew, he's a music man, who's, paying some bills doing, doing drug dealing. Suge Knight learns the business being a bodyguard.
That's right.
Just being around, taking in all that stuff, seeing what's happened with the conflicts that Bobby Brown might be having with his label, and later, with the DOC and and Dr. Dre, and then forms as a businessman, sees that publishing is where the money is, forms a little publishing company, and then there's the whole Vanilla Ice thing, and that's how he gets going. But he also has a mentor, and his mentor is Dick Griffey with Solar Records.
Of course, Solar Records, and love Solar Records.
With Solar Records. So I mean, and he was doing bodyguarding for Griffey, who did a lot of shows. Was one of the original African American concert promoters in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, I remember all that. Yes.
So they're totally different. Totally different.
I always look at just that there's a lot of the same kind of stories, and that's why I think this one really hit people, because it is universal. But it's also very specific. Yeah, it's both.
But it's like, how do you? Okay, you're an inner city kid, and you're talented, and you want to make music, and so what's the process by which you bootstrap that? Well, it's not like a regular. Who's stepping in to finance this process? So I mean, people go, oh my God, we've got the drug business moving into the record business. Well, that's been a recurrent theme in the music business for as far back as anybody knows. But I mean, who else is going to take? I mean, how speculative it is to do music, unproven, music on spec. I mean, that is that's a roll of the dice. I mean, you couldn't anticipate that Ruthless Records was going to go JJ Fad to, Easy Does It, to Straight Outta Compton, to the DOC, to those other albums, later Bone Thugs and Harmony. I mean, that just doesn't happen from a cold start, where there's that level of success that fast.
Right.
And it repeated itself with Death Row Records.
Yeah, it did.
But there was, as I say, and I think, one of the most interesting things is it was an imprisoned former drug kingpin that at a critical time in the genesis of this label puts badly needed seed capital in. Yeah. At a time when Suge's out of money. He can't get anything. He's done some publishing deals with Griffey. Can't get any, there's the well's dry there, but he's legitimized. He's in Solar Studios. He's in this, this studio record company where there are gold and platinum albums on the walls. I mean, that for starving artists coming in off the street, that provides this sort of
like, wow, okay.
Yeah, the wow factor. And plus they've got Dr. Dre, who did all the, up to through the DOC to Niggas for Life, all of the Ruthless stuff. So they've got they got an A-list producer.
Yes.
but they still need the capital
Capital focus on the money, right?
They still need to get deep cover and the Chronic out of the box. They still need to. There's an infrastructure that's got to be paid for. These artists, don't have jobs.
That's right. Because they're working on the albums. They're working on everything.
Suge Knight's got cases, and Dre's got a case or two. And it's
Now, as a documentarian, do you stay objective? How do you stay objective?
How
does that?
I'm interested in what happened.
Okay, so for you, it's like I'm going in. I want the full picture story.
Look, it's sort of these stories are like the Japanese movie Rashomon, the Kurosawa movie Rashomon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, 5 different people can examine the exact same thing and be eyewitnesses and come away, and they have different
stories.
Just a different take on what happened. They may have a measure of sympathy for one of the people and maybe it was someone else looks at that person and says, he overtly acted up, and another person witnessing the same thing. Well, so the best you can do is, get people that were there to say what they saw. And then to a degree, absolute truth, do you get that?
Yeah, do
in
you?
Some, in some cases you do. Some
Yeah.
things are very black and white, but some things are interpretive in terms of, somebody's motives or objectives or that sort of thing. That ends up being interpretive,
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in. I mean, there are people
whose documentaries are slanted
to. Look, Michael Moore. Michael
Moore,
Moore
that's
sets
right.
out. He sets out. I have a thesis.
Right.
And I am going to utilize everything that supports that thesis, and I'm not going to use anything else that doesn't support that thesis. And that works for him.
Yeah.
And he's made some great documentaries doing it.
I agree.
I'm more interested in. I mean, if somebody says they were poisoned, I want to talk to the doctor that said that. That gave that diagnosis.
Yeah.
I do.
So what do you see? What do you see your role as because you're producing it, of course, and you're also just ain't documentary. You're producing it, but you're also directing, so to speak. You're directing also, right? Your documentary. You're driving.
In some cases, yeah.
Right.
In some cases, like Straight Outta Death Row, which we're doing right now. Jeff Sheftel, who was the producer on Welcome to Death Row, is going to be the director.
Oh, okay.
On that.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
okay.
Because I'm an eyewitness, I'm interviewed throughout the piece.
Oh,
but,
okay. So what is your role on this? You kind of see yourself.
Well, I'm executive producer, and then I'm on that. But I don't have to be the. I'm on Death Row. I took over the direction because the previous guy. I mean, he was scared out of his mind. I mean, I'd moved him into my house, and it was crazy. It was insane. And, at some point it became a thing where we're not going to get to the finish line.
Well, what kept you motivated and not super scared and said, never mind, thanks?
I think maybe it's turning 40 or something, which I was. And you just go, I think in a show like this, in a film like this, you're seized with probably momentary insanity.
Okay.
I mean, you want to get it done so bad.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yes.
You've got the Sisyphus thing with a rock strapped to your back, and you're
Going up
trying to
that
get up the
hill.
hill, and you just sort of, it becomes this thing where you're just saying, I'm not going to let this take me down.
Right.
And this isn't just my experience. This is the experience of a lot of filmmakers.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear about these docs that go, I mean, look, When We Were Kings. They started filming that at the fight, and they finish it like, 20 plus years later with interviews with Plimpton and Spike Lee and all that. I mean, so I mean, that filmmaker sat for 2 decades with bupkis, wondering, when am I going to get my ticket punched on this, needing more money to go in and complete it. I mean, my situation wasn't unique.
Right.
It was just that we'd put a lot of money into this thing, and that was terrifying. It was terrifying that we needed to get it finished and completed and get the money back, because it was just choking the life out of us to get it to get it done.
And you're determined. You're like, I'm in it now.
It was going to happen. I mean, it's sort of like it's
I understand that. That's very cool.
And, but also the thing is that the story constantly inspired me.
Ooh,
It's like
okay,
this
I like that.
constantly. It's this, how did this constellation of people sort of coalesce to make this story happen? I mean, this is America, and people looked at it. There were people that would come to me and say, "Well, that's just a black story. That's a black no.
Right.
This has
Go beneath the surface. Go beneath the surface.
This is America.
It is.
This is America.
They
This is
made
about
the American
people going
dream.
the American dream and
Exactly.
all that, and it involves. I mean, look at all the people in this
Come
story.
out of it. Yes.
I mean, it's Ted Field and Jimmy Iovine and Suge Knight and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and
Michelet
Tupac.
and all
Look
these
at,
just
look at the array of
right.
people that are
Yo-yo
there.
and I mean.
So, it is an undertaking to go in and sort of try to capture a story like that. But, if you're in it to tell a great story, this is a great story.
Oh, I mean, besides the scared part, I'd be so fascinated. Each layer becomes available to you. I'd just be so fascinated, and want to know more.
Yeah.
That's so great. What are some of the mistakes that you try to avoid when you're doing like documentaries? Particularly this one. What were some of the things you were kind of like, I got to make sure I don't do this or kind of avoid doing that?
Well, a lot of your, let me say this, sometimes the best laid plans, it still may go off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
There's still going to be things that you don't anticipate,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, when we entered into this story, I didn't, I'm basically learning about Suge Knight for the first time.
Okay.
I'm learning by doing. So I don't realize all the headwinds and all the things that are going to be.
Okay.
So part of it is part of the problem with a doc is sometimes you pick a subject and it's so vexing to get people to talk. I would caution someone, if you're going to be doing a story where the federal government is launched an investigation into, its formulation activities to try to connect drug money to it, that it's not the most opportune time to try to interview people who are also being interviewed by the government.
Yes.
So
it's a little problem.
So sometimes, sometimes that a lot of the, people pick subjects that are, they're very, very difficult to get at. A lot of times people want to, they see themselves as the writer, director, editor, producer, sound guy. And they need to allocate responsibilities to people that are very, and this goes back to me being in distribution. When you see a movie that has, all the credits are one person. Because, find someone that's very, very, very good at interviewing. Find someone that's very, very good at
camera
sound.
or sound. Yeah, exactly.
Find somebody that's shot a few docs.
Yeah.
Probably the most important thing is to find an editor that knows how to cut story.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because most docs go off the rails where somebody's trying to, and I think, it's just my personal opinion, but I think it's hard to be the guy that's directing and pushing the buttons to edit at the same time.
Okay.
My process is to while I'm thinking how the story is going to unfold or what we can do, to achieve something, and then I'm asking you ask the editor to try to do that. I'm not capable of switching my brain off to try to execute the cut versus I want to keep my head in what's going to make the story flow. And the biggest issue with most docs is story flow, as it is with
movies and
with screenplays
TV,
and with feature films.
Right.
In the first 20 minutes whether you're engaged in a movie.
Very true.
And a documentary is the same thing. And often the unsung hero is the editor. We had a guy on Welcome to Death Row, Tyler Hubby, who is brilliant guy. He's done The Great Invisible would be one of the most recent docs he did, and he's just got it. And there are there's a sort of A-list category. I mean, if you look at a documentary, it's a great documentary, and then find out who that editor is.
That makes sense. It totally makes sense to me.
I mean, it's just sort of, it's intuitive.
Because I've seen docs that, you're right. They start out great, and somehow they lose it in the center sometimes.
But also, here's the other thing: when you're doing a doc, there's what you envision the story to be. There's where you start and where you finish. And sometimes you have this notion of a story, and you get in it, and you immerse yourself in it, and another story comes out of it. Yeah. It's not what you thought, but you got to follow that. You got to follow where the gold is in the story. And to a degree, you're beholden to the people that will speak to you.
Makes
you
sense.
are.
Oh, yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't. Look, I wasn't going to get Dr. Dre to talk to me. I wasn't going to get Ice Cube to talk. I wasn't going to get Ice-T to talk to me. Not in 95 or 96.
Oh, back then, I'm sure, right?
No way.
Yeah.
No way. It was why? What's their upside?
Right.
Seriously.
Right.
I mean, so you have to kind of, you can sit there and be angry because certain people are saying no, but I mean,
you got to see their point.
You're really offering,
Right.
You're trying to tell a story, so you're kind of beholden to who will speak, and then then there are people that want some ridiculous amount of money for their
their time.
Yeah,
and one story.
Within the basic economics of a documentary, you can't. I mean, there are people that ask for the entire budget of a documentary just to speak to you for an hour.
Oh my God.
Like, that's not gonna. You're not gonna be able to do that.
I'll find somebody else. Thanks. Wow. I mean, you talk. What drew you to documentaries, documentary style? Because you've done so many.
Whose style?
Like what drew you? Like you saw a documentary, you saw a person's style, and went, "That's it."
Oh, I mean, God.
You named a few.
When we were kings, I mean. They're just, I mean, I'll tell you a doc I saw recently.
Okay, tell me, please. It's my favorite genre.
Just blow away good. It's called Print the Legend.
Ooh, okay.
It's about 3D printing.
Oh, I see that sometimes.
Which you wouldn't necessarily think was but I mean, again, it's an immersion doc. It was on Netflix, picked it up. It's Seth Gordon, who
I know who
executive produced, who's doing arguably the best documentaries right now in the world. I mean, I saw it at South by Southwest, and it was just but again, these filmmakers, the two filmmakers, go down this road, and you don't know where it's going to end up. And they're in Cambridge talking to these guys, and they're talking to it's about MakerBot, which got sold to. Stratus, which is the big player in the 3D. But you have all these sort of stories running concurrent that sort of knit together at the end, and you don't always know where. I mean, it's just so brilliant when it actually fuses together like you sort of envisioned it happening that way, and luck to a degree is operates in this, and there are tons of capturing the Freedmans with
that was
there's Durst,
I saw that
Durst stuff on who was it?
I forgot his name. Who did
Andrew Jacari.
Yeah, that was a great documentary too.
Eugene or Andrew, one of the two. But I mean, it's they didn't. They were totally thrown for a loop there at the end when he, ends up confessing in the bathroom. You can't
even script that. You can't even plan that. It was like, Well, for me, when I was young, I didn't really know. I mean, when I was coming up, there were only a few documentaries anyway when I was coming up. But the one that changed my mind and made me want to check out more and more documentaries was Paris is Burning, Gene Livingston. When I saw that, I was like, wow, now it's kind of almost an immersion kind of story like you were talking about.
I saw it. I'm a few years away from it, so I'd have to look at it.
Yeah, but it was just one of those things. It completely, to me, it still holds up. I mean, it captures the time, and I was like, oh, that's what documentaries can do. Because when I was growing up, kind of documentaries seemed like these boring things that, they're talking about an elephant somewhere and, and
science class.
Yeah, exactly.
Grade, and you're seeing a bug crawl up, the spotted, rare spotted owl.
Right,
It just
right.
sits there.
And you're okay, but it literally is my favorite genre out there. I just love catching small ones, big ones, short. I mean, I just think the human condition, human spirit is endlessly fascinating.
Some people say it's it is really the last form of absolute truth telling.
I can see that.
With the caveat of whose truth is it?
Whose truth is it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I always say there's always three sides to, it's like your truth and then the truth.
Sure.
What was the best piece of advice that someone has given you that still serves you today?
I guess when you're picking your subject, whether you're writing a screenplay or whether you're making a documentary or something, to envision who your audience is and who's actually going to buy it and who cares. Because, so often you talk to people, somebody is writing something or pursuing something, and they're saying, but this is very personal. This happened to me. Well, the issue is that even though it happened to you and you're close to it and it might be very personal, is it of interest to an audience that's going to sit in a theater for 90 minutes and watch it, or in a documentary where you're asking somebody to, even watch it on their
laptop or TV or tablet, right?
DVD, whatever, which is still robust, by the way.
Yeah, no, I know it. I know it is.
Go DVD. Go DVD.
I'm old school, so I'm like, sure, I'll do DVD.
But I think it's sort of taking the pulse of the commercial marketplace. What I think always helped me, and it's strange because you're seen as this distributor, like this Willy Loman character, sweaty, walking around a trade show with sweat in his back and everything. Wouldn't know a good film if it hit him in the face. If it's successful, it had to be the film. If it was, if it's not successful, it's because he's a fucking moron. Oops.
Sorry, we said it. Oh well, it just does one. That's good.
But the fact is that being in the business of selling, actually having to go in and pitch people in the home entertainment market helped me enormously, because I'm sitting here looking at this universe of stuff that's over-indexing, that's doing well, that's consistently what people are renting or buying, or and then you can factor that in with what's working at the box office. But for all the blood, sweat, and tears, and for all the time that you've got to allocate to go in and write your script or make your documentary, and all the money you got to, pull out of relatives and whomever, try to, tweak Kickstarter, so you've got a giveaway that's gonna, get you $5 times, 2,000 or whatever.
Right.
Pick something that's, that's in sync with the zeitgeist, that people are really going to embrace and want to see, because we, the fact is, we don't need another independent film. We need another good one. We need another really good one. We need another really great doc. But I'm sorry, the beaches are littered with, so much, credit card. Somebody maxed out their credit card to make this thing. They're stuck in neutral. Maybe they got halfway through and they ran out of money. Or, some percentage of things that actually see the light of day, that show up on iTunes, that, you will see in the physical disc marketplace, or you'll see on cable television or free over-the-air television.
Right.
Not to mention a theater. Those are the fugitives from the law of averages. Those are the ones that sort of got. That's the 1%. They talk about literally the 1%. So, try very high. Like I met with a guy.
Okay.
That 2 days ago. One of the things that happens now is I get it's kind of nice. People ask me to read their script, and I'm loath to do it because I'm please don't demonize me. Please accept what I'm going to say. Tell you is just my opinion. It's very hard to get somebody to really get a a good analysis of somebody's work. A lot of people don't want to hear it. But,
No, they don't, right?
This guy pitched me a concept, and it was really good.
Yeah. Okay.
I could see right. I won't say because it's
Okay.
his thing.
Yeah.
But I looked at it and I went, that makes sense. I got it. Zeitgeist, right in. I can see who's going to gravitate towards that.
Oh, okay.
And you ought to. That ought to be the cycle of stuff going
Got
in
it.
your head when you're, when you decide to pursue something.
Got it.
I mean, and being in sales, coming from sales,
Yeah.
is not a bad thing.
I
Not
can
a
see
bad
that.
thing.
I can see that.
Not.
I come from marketing and stuff. I understand. It's helped me.
Those people should not be discredited because
Yeah.
they suddenly decide that they're,
Right.
they're screenwriters. And I've been writing really
Right.
since I
Picked up a pencil.
probably 20 or so screenplays. Compton was the first one that went big, but I've developed several others too.
Yeah.
And it's concurrent with being a distributor.
Yes. I tell people I used to work in video stores. That's how old I am.
Sure.
I used to work in video stores. I used to work at Music Plus Records and video back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like that. And I remember people, like, you guys would come in and try. So we have these new films. They were on tapes.
God, what is I'm trying to remember the name of the, do you remember the DVD buyer there at Music Plus?
Oh my God.
She's going to, I've done business with her forever.
Yes, I'm
she's going to be,
now too.
she's going to be,
it's not the old brain sets in sometimes. I remember.
Oh, I'll think of it.
But
Anyway,
I worked at several different Music Pluses around. They put me around, and I got to.
that was one of my first big as a distributor. That was
Okay.
one of my first big sales was to Music Plus.
Yeah, connection. I love it.
Yeah, they picked
Yes.
up our Jay Leno piece, and then a bunch of other, Dolomite,
that.
and
I love that.
a bunch of other things. So
Yeah, so funny. So, I mean, I could talk to you forever, but obviously have to end my show because they won't give me a 3-hour show, won't you? You won't give me a 3-hour show. But I have 2 questions I ask every
Sure,
guest
sure.
when they come on.
Yeah.
And the first one is, 'cause I believe language is very important, and especially in the industry, personal life, we can talk ourselves out of stuff. We can talk ourselves into stuff. And so my first question to you is, what is one word you think we should take out of our vocabulary?
won't.
Ooh, that's a good one. I won't. I won't. I won't. I like that. What is one word that you think we should add back into our vocabulary?
Yes.
I like that. Yes. I say yes a lot. It's a lot of things too. I like it. Well, it's a good thing. I say yes to.
No, because mostly it's no.
Right.
Okay, but
In this
every
town
once you got to say,
especially.
yes has got to happen every once in a while.
I like that.
I mean, people say, oh, well, it's always no. Well, not for everyone.
Right.
So just keep going until you get the yes. Just make sure you've got the something that's
Yes.
that people
It's
want to
yesable.
see. Yeah, exactly.
Something that deserves a yes. Something that warrants a yes, right? Have that in your brain, and then you kind of go forward. Leigh, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming
James,
on.
thank you. Thank you.
What a
for-
great conversation.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's another edition of Breaking Into. I am James Lott Jr. here with Leigh Savidge, and we'll be back next week. Thank you.
From producers Maria Menounos, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.